Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. Despite the many wonderful virtues associated with love, one cannot deny that love is also crazy, if not stupid at times. Over the years, I have seen people doing many crazy things in the name of love. I have even seen one of my own friends lifting what he thought was love to a level of madness which cost him his life. Thankfully, in my capacity as a journalist, I was able to immortalize his situation through a story I wrote for the Gleaner. So, in this edition of Lest You Forget, I will be looking back at the story of how my friend Francis Gibson Jr., also known as Dave and Psycho Dave, a resident of Mount Salem in St. James, gave away his life in St. Elizabeth in November 2002. The story I wrote, which was published on the 10th of November 2002, under the headline Loving Her to Death, read as follows. For many, the feelings he proclaimed for his former living love, Karen Miles, was a combination of uncontrolled lust and blind obsession. However, for Dave, what he felt was a love he could not live without, one he was prepared to die for. Dave, who was christened Francis Gibson Jr. 40 years ago, left his home in Mount Salem, Montego Bay last Monday night to win back the love of Karen, who had left him without any forwarding address. However, upon finding her in New River in St. Elizabeth, his crude attempt to reclaim her love turned tragic, resulting in him being killed by an angry mob. Boy, the woman left me, and anywhere she there, me have to find her. Dave told me 3 weeks ago when I ran into him inside the Island Grill restaurant in Montego Bay. Give me a thing, no star. I need to put some gas in my ride. And me need to buy a road map because anywhere she there, me have to find her. My Gleaner co-worker, Marlon Fraser, who was meeting Dave for the first time, seemed somewhat amused as he outlined the misery, including not being able to eat or sleep, totally oblivious of the many persons who were overhearing him lamenting as they walk in and out of the popular eatery. However, based on my close to 25 years association with Dave, I knew he was hurting badly, and it was clear that he was neither eating or sleeping properly. His total appearance painted a picture of extreme distress. Star, you see the phone here? Displaying a yellow cellular phone. I brought it for her for $5,000, Dave said, as he dug into his pocket and pulled out another cellular phone. You see this one? It costs less than $1,000. This is the one I bought for myself. I always try to give my woman the best. Dave proceeded to tell us that he had heard that Karen was living in St. Elizabeth and of his intention to search every inch of the parish until he found her. According to him, regardless of what it takes, he intended to make Karen his living love once again. But big man, if she didn't want you to find her, she wouldn't leave her phone, I told Dave in a bid to get him to abandon his mission to find Karen. Besides, suppose she is living with another man. Man, careful, yeah. Mind country people kill you. However, as we walked out of the Island Grill restaurant together, it was clear that Dave had made up his mind. He lit a cigarette and after taking a deep puff, turned to us and said, Adrian Brethren, let me tell you something. My life will not make sense again unless me get back my woman. Me have to dead trying, but me have to get her back. As I watched Dave walking away in the direction of Sam Sharp Square, with the small puff of cigarette smoke rising above his head, I knew he meant every word he had said. What I did not know was that I would not see him alive again, ever. Looking back at Dave's life, less than a week after seeing his burnt-out car, which was torched by the residents of New River, and his lifeless body on the television news, I could not help but reflecting on a man who had always seen love, read and perceive, as the answer to his troubled upbringing. In conversations with Dave over the years, he would often speak of his troubles growing up. According to him, he spent most of his young life in and out of trouble between the streets of Mount Salem and the various places of safety and boys' home all over the country. No boys' home could not hold me. The people them send me to Clifton in Westmoreland and even Stonehill, but me always escape and come back home. I remember Dave telling me in one of the many conversations we have had over the years. The people them claim say me bad, so them never want me around. Unlike most men, Dave was usually a one burner, one girlfriend at a time. And as a consequence, he always threw his all into his relationships. If any man looked too closely at his girlfriend, he would immediately become a candidate for a quarrel or a fight. He was a man whose jealousy knew no bound. In addition to his jealousy, Dave was always a man who literally lived the sentiments expressed in Alton Ellick's classic love song, Breaking Up. In the years I have known him, he has had many fights, including some that drew blood, with the new lovers of his ex-girlfriends, as he was a man who had a difficulty putting a broken relationship behind him. The boy bride fit take with me woman and want to live with her right here in Mount Salem. Dave said to me after an incident some 15 years ago in which he had attacked and seriously wounded a man who had become friendly with one of his former girlfriends. If him want her, him have to take her out of the community. Watching Everton Brown, Karen's new boyfriend, with his face covered in bandage as he sought to explain on the television newscast how Dave had used a half of a building block to knock out his window to gain entry into his house, I was not at all surprised. I was also not surprised that he stashed Brown's face and had kidnapped Karen. In reflecting on the circumstances that led to Dave's death, I couldn't help but wonder how a man who was quite reasonable in other matters was such a hopeless idiot in matters of the heart. I cannot understand how could he rationalize giving away his life for a woman who did not want him. Despite his troubles and his sometimes irrational behavior, I will still remember Dave as a man who had some fine qualities. He was quite a loving father to his 4 children by 4 different women, a generous man to women, and a friend who one could always depend on. I cannot say that I am overcome with grief at Dave's passing, although it would have been nice if he had stayed around to see a ripe old age. However, I have a feeling that he did not mind dying for Karen because he was convinced that his life would be worthless without having Karen beside him. The CCN had reported that about 7:30 p.m. last Monday, 40-year-old Dave Gibson, a painter of Mount Salem in Montego Bay, St. James, went to a house in New River where his ex-girlfriend was staying with another man. He reportedly barged into the house and attacked the man, hitting him over his head with a gun. It was further reported that he had abducted his former girlfriend, Karen Miles, 21, from the house and dragged her into nearby bushes as he was unable to drive his car out of the community. Residents later set Gibson's car ablaze after they couldn't find him. Last Tuesday morning, he emerged from the bushes with the girl, and residents set upon him and chopped him all over his body. He later died. I must admit that I lost a friend in this unforgettable story. Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. Before you go, please remember to subscribe.